चरण रेणु भजनयन कोला माधव तिथि भक्ति जननी जतन करी पालन करो। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। गुरवे गौरचंद्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्ण भक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरात्वेषे नमः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। श्री श्री राधा मदन मोहन।
हरे कृष्णा। So we are very fortunate to have amongst us Sarvabhauma. So he was born on 6th February 1952 in Pushkarna Vaishnava Brahmin family, having Radha Krishna temple for 8 generations in Mithi, which is a part of Rajasthan in Sindh province of Pakistan. He did his MBBS from Sindh University in Hyderabad, Sindh. He became actively involved in spiritual movement from 1981 in Karachi, and in 1991 he permanently retired from government service and moved to India to work under His Holiness Radha Swami Maharaj. He delivered a series of discourses in the TV program Dharma through ITV of Mumbai, featured by Sony and Star TV. Since 2004, Prabhuji has been traveling and preaching far and wide in India, Pakistan, Gulf countries and Mauritius. So we are very, very fortunate to have Prabhuji amongst us. Let us heartily welcome Prabhuji by once loudly chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. You are all welcome at Sri Radha Madan Mohan Temple, ISKCON, Hyderabad, for this morning, relishing the transcendental divine pastime of Srila Prabhupada in USSR, the great communist country in 70s and 80s. This was year 1971 when none of you were born. Srila Prabhupada has established the International Society for Krishna Consciousness in Western world. Then he came to India to reawaken the Krishna consciousness in India. And at that time, one big bloc, Russia, was untouched at that time. So Srila Prabhupada with his secretary Shyam Sundar and his servant, they got a tourist visa, something, to visit Moscow. So this is what we are reading is Srila Prabhupada in Moscow. They call Moskva. In Russia they call Moskva. And I visit Russia and I call Russia Rusik. They are Rusik. Because Russia is Rusik. Actually, this is part from the Himalaya continues towards Russia. The Caspian Sea is a place where Kashyap Muni used to do the austerities. And the name of the places are mostly like Ulan-Ude is one city there, which means Arun-Uday, means rising sun. There's a place called Annapurna. And there is a almost remnant of Vedic culture there. Often I visited maybe more than 10 times. You can give the grains to the pigeons. Pigeon will come and sit on your palm and eat, and the people give the grains to the pigeon. So, Kshatriya at the time of Parashuram, they crossed the river Indus and entered Afghanistan, then Kazakhstan. Like this, they went to Russia. There's a route to Russia. So there are Vedic cultures. There are remnant of Vedic culture. And that's what Prabhupada has noted very smartly. So what we are reading now is after only 3 days, it means Prabhupada was there for 3 days first. Prabhupada's mission in Moscow seemed finished because there was not much activity. Why? The meeting with Professor Kotaswski over. This is meeting, I think you have heard this earlier, right? Personally, my Krishna consciousness began by reading this interview of Srila Prabhupada with Professor Kotaswski, particularly about Varna Ashram Dharma. Srila Prabhupada was saying Varna Ashram is international. You have an intelligent class, always you have teachers, you have member of parliaments. This is Brahman, we call them Brahman. Then you have army, you have police, you have administration, we call them Kshatriya. You have businessmen, you have agriculturists. They are called Vaishya, and you are worker, they are called Shudra. So this system is all over the world. This is all over the world. The names may be different, but they are functioning all over the world like that. And if you put the wrong person in a wrong place, then everything will be destroyed. Like Srila Prabhupada used to say, that right now, all over the planet, there are only 2 varna, capitalist and communist. The laborers and the business exploiters. There's no Brahman, there's no Kshatriya. So Prabhupada wanted actually to first train the people as Brahmans. And then his mood was that there should be a Kshatriya, they can rule all over the world. And that mission is still pending. Brahman part Srila Prabhupada is established, he trained the people as a Brahman. But he wanted to have a Kshatriya training perfectly. He started the We Trust in God, a political movement in America. Because on the dollar it is written, in God we trust. So that was the name of the movement. And somebody fought an election at that time in America. And then also in Australia they tried this. But this Kshatriya part were never established. Prabhupada said it's too early. So now, basically speaking, we need to train the Kshatriyas. Beginning from our own temple, our security, we should recruit the devotees to take that responsibility. And Kshatriyas are a respected and very honorable position. Even Brahmins, for Brahmins they are also, Brahmins guide them, but they administratively they are more powerful. But what we are dealing with these Kshatriyas mostly like workers. That's not, the principle is that only one community is earning, Vaishya. They earn. They have to pay tax to the Kshatriya, which they are paying. They have to give salary to the workers, they are giving. They have to give dakshana, not charity. Charity is for poor. A honor, dakshana to the Brahmins. So this part is not working now. That is a problem. You can't find really qualified Brahmins because they are not maintained by the society. So Srila Prabhupada wanted to revive this Brahmanical culture because that is most important for any society. So he discussed with Professor Kotaswski only Varna Ashram mostly. And when I read Prabhupada's this statement, I was fully convinced that this is the right path to follow. And this is a perfect personality as a Prabhupada. And this is Professor, I remember the whole, I read it. This is also in Science of Self-Realization. This interview is there also. So Prabhupada said, this is over. I talked with him. And what was left? Nothing. the government would allow nothing else because the communist government was not allowing what? Prabhupada said, we have not brought books. Prabhupada was not allowed to bring books with them. Afterwards, there was some book fair there. So all over the world, some literature went there. So at that time, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, as a salesman of the BBT, not as a sannyasi, but as a salesman of BBT, he brought the books in Russia. So that is the way the books reached Russia at that time. So this was the beginning of the books entering Russia. And then, have you read this Salted Bread? Somebody has read that book? How they were printing books and how difficult time they have. So there were no books, and now he had been refused opportunity to speak publicly. It says, foreigners were not to talk with the Russians. My God. If you are visiting Russia, you have not to talk with Russian. Even today, hardly 0.001% people know English in Russia or any other language. Only Russian. No other language. Only Russian. Because they're not allowed to talk to anybody. So, Prabhupada writes, he could go nowhere. Prabhupada cannot go anywhere unless on an accompanied tour. It means if there are foreigners there, then they have to take the Russian tour guide and go with the all people as in tourist bus. They can see sightseeing. When I was in Moscow, they showed me the place where Prabhupada stayed and that Lenin garden, all these things which Prabhupada saw there. So Prabhupada says, so with no preaching and no prospects, there's no preaching and no prospect, there's no possibility of doing anything. He stayed in a cramped room, taking his massage, bathing, accepting whatever food Shyam-Sundar could gather and cook. Whatever food means there was no vegetables available. Even if you have to buy some vegetables, you have to be in a line for hours, for milk, for yogurt. Even I think one place you will find, he cooked sweet rice because he got some milk and there was no pot where to put. So they used a big lota in olden days, the lota they used for washroom. Prabhupada says, you clean this. Because in olden days, lota from the home used to go and then after cleaning, they used to use, this was a system. So they never understood. Prabhupada put this sweet rice like that there. And then Prabhupada's main business was dictating a few letters, but chanting Hare Krishna and translating Bhagavatam. So in other words, what we can learn from this, there are certain situations sometimes that we have no preaching activity. Then what we should do? Chant Hare Krishna. Prabhupada was translating Bhagavatam, we read Bhagavatam. Because these are the two things that keep us alive in Krishna consciousness. Now, Prabhupada took a guided tour of Moscow in a bus, riding with the other tourists on the crowded bus. He saw elderly Russian going to church, armed guards stationed at the door. He soon tired of tour. Prabhupada is useless. Prabhupada was in Nairobi, and somebody asked Prabhupada, can we go, Prabhupada, to see the zoo? Because there are so many, in Africa there are elephants, lion, Prabhupada. What is in the zoo? So there are animals. Prabhupada said, there are so many walking outside two-leg animals. What is in the zoo? Why to go in the zoo? Everywhere there is a zoo. So Prabhupada here said, this tour is useless, waste of time. He was never for sightseeing. I mean, no devotee I have seen preaching overseas is interested in sightseeing at all. But we'll see. Everywhere same building, same thing, nothing different. That's nothing the same. Everywhere is the same thing actually. So what to see? Oh, this beach is good. Everywhere is the same beach. What is the difference? Like newspaper. What is news in the newspaper? Nothing. All the old story, new name, new place. But there's nothing in the news. What is in the news? Accident happened there. There is a theft here. Somebody ran out here. That is all same thing. Place is different, name are different. Everything is same. What is the news? Nothing. So why to waste time? So Prabhupada said, so he said, I'm fed up of this. And as soon as he tried tour, however, the tour guide got him the taxi and instructed the driver to return to the Hotel National. Prabhupada got in the middle from the buses. It's useless. And then he got taxi, come back to the room. But Shyam Sundar continued to spend most of his day looking for fresh food. I was in America with some engineer, our friend. Now he's doing Bhakti Vedanta with us. So on Sunday he said, we have to go to the farmer's market to buy vegetable. I said, I will go come with you. So we drove almost 20 kilometers. Then he said, oh, I forgot the card to get money. So we came back. From home we got the card, again 20. Then we went there, he showed me market. And there was some normal vegetables looking there, and he collected this. He said, I told, my God, you have to waste 2 hours, 40 kilometer drive to get this vegetable. In India, in front of our door, people are selling fresh vegetable every day. Every day we are getting fresh vegetable just in front of our door. So what you are getting? So what is their life? So how much trouble Shyam Sundar has to spend most of the day looking for the fresh food. Fresh food was not available. Hearing that the oranges were available at a certain market across town. Oranges. He heard that some oranges are available. He set out across the city with his shaved head and his white dhoti and kurta. He drew stares from everyone he passed. As he was returning after dark, uniformed men wearing the red armbands accosted him, taking him to the local, thinking that the local deviant. Grabbing him, they pinned his arm behind. So he was going, they hold his arm, pinned behind. Who are you? And speaking Russian. And behind the back, shouted at him in Russian. Shyam Sundar caught the word document. Because they say in Russian documents, the English word is same, document. He replied, document, hotel. And then Shyam Sundar, realizing Shyam Sundar was a tourist, the officer released him. And he returned to his hotel and informed Prabhupada of what had taken place. Prabhupada said, there is no hope. Now see Prabhupada's statement. There is no hope. There is no hope in Russia without Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada said. There is no hope in Russia without Krishna consciousness. This was Prabhupada's one sentence. Once Shyam Sundar was standing in a line at the yogurt store when a man behind him asked him about the yoga. Yogurt store, he was just buying. Somebody said, do you know something about yoga? I really want to talk with you, that man said. And he gave Shamsundar his name and address. And a time they could safely meet. When Shamsundar told Prabhupada, Prabhupada said, no, he is a policeman, don't go. Sometime in Singapore, I think the ISKCON was not allowed. So somebody was going this from behind, somebody say Hare Krishna. And then you say Hare Krishna, then you are out. Because when somebody tell you Hare Krishna, automatically you say Hare Krishna. It means you are Hare Krishna, right? And then they pack you back. So it's a... Prabhupada said, never go to the person. The person is definitely their KBG, the Russian KBG. So, standing at the window, Prabhupada glimpsed a parade nearby, red square, troops, tanks, artillery and missiles parading through the streets. Now what's Prabhupada getting from this, what they are doing this? By always preparing for war, Prabhupada said the Russian leaders kept the people motivated and this avoided a revolt. People are always, Prabhupada said, motivated, now we have to go, we have to do this. So people have no time to think that they are cut from the whole world. At that time, this was saying, the three things Russia was afraid of: pop music, Western standard of life, and Hare Krishna. These are the three threats to the Russia. Because the music, lifestyle of Western world, which is next door. Here is Russia, here is Germany. They are just next door. And they were not knowing anything what's going on in the world. Like in China, nobody knows what's going on in the world. They're just in a closed box. So, Prabhupada says, leaders kept the people motivated and this avoided to revolt. He compared war-like Russia to the asuras or demons in the ancient Vedic history like Srimad Bhagavatam. So he said, are demonic people, always warmongers, just preparing for war, no business. So when there's a war atmosphere, you have no other thing to think, actually. All the times the war. One day, now this is a good thing happened, one day two young men, one, the son of Indian diplomat, stationed in Moscow, it means from the embassy, and the other a young Moscowite, a man from Moscow, were loitering. They are just roaming around near Red Square. When they saw an amazing sight, what is the amazing sight? Out of the unusual, regimented routine of the city traffic, a tall young man with a shaved head, a long reddish ponytail, which means sikha, and flowing white robes approached. So, they never saw this type of person in Russia. I used to have one special stick danda, which is some wine of Vrindavan. It is fixed by German devotee Sanak Sanatan. It's quite big, and it's just, you can watch. If you choose, you can watch. I was in Russian station. I was going with danda. Everybody is watching, and dhoti and kurta. Because this, you look different. You are different, so people just watch, just stare. What's going on? I've seen, and now these boys. And he was Shamsundar, Familiar with Shyam Sundar's dress, the son of the Indian diplomat stopped with him. Shyam Sundar smiled, Hare Krishna, brother. And he began talking with the Indian whose name was Narayan. A Russian Ivan, a common name in Russia, Ivan, knew a little English and followed the conversation as closely as he could. The talk grew serious. So these two, one Indian son of a diplomat and one Russian, they met Shyam Sundar. And then what Shyam Sundar said? Shyam Sundar, this is the most important thing. Shyam Sundar said, why don't you come up and meet my spiritual master? If you are new, if you don't know really how to deal with this situation, better to refer to the senior person in a different country, different situation. So he said, why don't you come and meet my spiritual master? Shyam Sundar asked, honored. The boys immediately accompanied Shyam Sundar to the Hotel National. When they arrived, they found Prabhupada seated on his bed, aglow and smiling. And Arvind, the Prabhupada's servant, massaging his feet. Shyam Sundar entered, offering obeisance before the Prabhupada, and Ivan was completely fascinated. Why this American white offered obeisance to Indian? So it was fascinating for him. And this was a great scene in South America at that time. South America was a very restricted country, and the blacks in a different area, white in a different area. When Prabhupada was invited here, and they saw all the white people offering obeisance to Indian gentlemen, they was completely, this is a new word. What is happening? They never thought like that. So here, Ivan was completely fascinated. Come on, Prabhupada said. And the three of them sat at Prabhupada's feet. Turning first to Narayan, Prabhupada asked his name and his father's occupation. Narayan liked Prabhupada. Narayan liked Prabhupada and offered to bring the green vegetables. His father, being highly placed at the Indian embassy, had produce flown in from India. Now the whole thing was that, but Prabhupada, Shyam Sundar is always looking for vegetables. We are not getting vegetables here. There's nothing to eat practically. So he said, don't worry. I will arrange this because my father getting everything from India. Because the Indian embassy used to get their food from India. And this is a present now, today in America. Because a whole Indian grocery for the many millions of people of India living there, this is cheap as compared to the European food. So now, because of the tariff, they are dying there because what they will eat. Indian stores are common and cheap as compared to the European stores. And it's within the budget of the normal people. So now this is a problem with the America. So he said, I can provide you. This is good. Ivan was interested even more than Indian friend. And Prabhupada began explaining to him the philosophy of Krishna consciousness while Narayan helped by translating. It means Narayan was knowing Russian there. It means he was studying in the school there. Only then you can learn the language, practically speaking. So if his father was posted there, generally, there are, every embassy has the school where their local language and the language of the country is told to the education is like that. So he was knowing Russian, it means. So he was translating for Ivan. Ivan inquired with respect and awe, and Srila Prabhupada answered his question, teaching as much as basic information about Krishna consciousness as was possible in one sitting. Prabhupada explained the difference between the spirit, soul and the body and describe the soul's eternal relationship with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So basic philosophy, you are not body, you are soul. This is the Prabhupada's philosophy. Oftentimes he used to speak this thing. Once a Chinese big philosopher came to India, and he met a very saintly person. He said, "What is your realization in the life?" He said that soul is eternal and body is temporary. He said, a child can know this. He said, child can know, but the person like you as a philosopher will not realize this in one lifetime. To say I am not body is easy, but to realize I am not body, I am soul is not easy. It's not easy. My experience, I want to share only in Krishna consciousness, the easiest possible practice that we forget the body and realize the blissful nature of soul is chanting and dancing in Harinam Sankirtan. When you are completely absorbed in Harinam Sankirtan, you forget the body. You will feel the little bliss of the soul that you never ever forget. And if you do the Sankirtan, where people know you, and then you ignore that and do Sankirtan, it means you are coming above the bodily platform. So more you do Sankirtan, more it is easy to realize I am not body, I am soul. Sankirtan is the only possible way to realize this truth. And it is because in Srila Prabhupada's time, all the devotees from the morning after breakfast, after morning darshan class, take books, take kartal mridanga, go out till evening 4 o'clock. The whole day was kirtan, nothing else. And the slogan was, 2 hours of kirtan keeps Maya away. This was the slogan of the devotees at that time. 2 hours kirtan a day keeps Maya away. And even I'm personally in the 90s, 89, 90, in America, even after 8 o'clock when the temple closes 8:30, they used to have a kirtan till 9:30 and dancing, New Vrindavan. But kirtan was the life and soul of the devotees. Kirtan is keeping devotees always in ecstasy. So this kirtan is degenerating practically in Krishna conscious movement. And there are problems because of that. All the problems are because only we are not enthusiastic for kirtan. The more kirtan we do, the more problems will be solved and everything more will be in Krishna consciousness. Everything will be. Last night, I am telling in early days in ISKCON, to run the small center, one person was doing the job and getting the salary. And with that salary, the temple they used to run. This was the early model of ISKCON. Like in New York, Brahmanand was working in his school. And what salary he was bringing, they were running the temple. And then they are also using the facility of the school, In the old days, there was a system to make the paper lit or something. So he used that to print back to Godhead magazine in his school. A school machine. This is possible in old days. I was in a medical college, I had a projector for teaching. And at that time we have film of Hare Krishna at the big reel. So I used to take that projector and go everywhere to show the reel to the people, because this is possible. So this was the system of early days ISKCON's temple. So one simple devotee Nanda Kumar. He said, Prabhupada said, you chant Hare Krishna, everything will be provided. So let us go and chant. So they went and started chanting in the city, Hare Krishna, Hare. And so many people gather around, what's going on? It's interesting. This transcendental sound vibration actually attracts every living entity, because every soul by nature is Krishna conscious, because love is there. Prabhupada said if they would not have been love in their heart for Krishna, then how could I have awakened that? This was already there, whoever he may be. So after finishing kirtan, they have a conch shell, they blew the conch shell. Ooh, everybody was surprised, what is this sound? And after that, they turned the conch shell upside down. And everybody was coming and putting some change in that. And they counted, it was $12.50. This is more than the 1 day's earning of a person, because $2 over $1 they were working for 2 hours, so it's 6 over 8 hours. They said, no, Prabhupada said, right, Krishna, you do Harinam and you will get everything. Next day again they went somewhere and they got 24. Then they said, there's no need for service, every day we'll do Harinam, Krishna will provide. Prabhupada says, money is flying. So once they have to pay rent for the temple, and the devotee says, money is flying, Prabhupada said, let's go see if money is flying. And they saw some dollars are flying. And they collected exactly as much as they have to pay to the rent. So they have this experience somehow in their life. So you do Sankirtan, all problems will be solved. At least in the temple, there should be more than an hour Kirtan every day. And Kirtan, Mr. Prabhupada, one of the Prabhupada disciples, he wrote a book, Blazing Sadhu. Have you read? Who have seen the Blazing Sadhu? Achyutananda, Prabhupada's early sannyasi who wrote all these Vaishnava songs. His book's name is Blazing Sadhu. He says, anybody who cannot chant and dance is not a sadhu. If you cannot chant and dance, not a sadhu. Prabhupada said, when there's a mridang, big kartal, then inside there's a cover over the anand. And when that sound and vibration together, it's open and you feel the ecstasy which is coming from within your heart. Not an harmonium, it will not do that, Prabhupada said. No, that's for bhajan. That's only you just please the Lord by singing sweetly. But kirtan, only this lid will, uncover the treasury of the anand when you do kirtan, and dance in the kirtan, perspire and be drenched in the sweat. Then you are not body, you are soul. So Prabhupada said, oh, you are not body, you are soul. And this relationship with soul is Krishna. It means chanting Hare Krishna is we are re-establishing our forgotten relation with Krishna. This is only the way. And in practice, after bhajan kiya, after getting initiation, daily hearing Bhagavad is the only method to come above unearth nivritti. There's no other way, no other way, no other way. Nasht prayeshu abhadreshu nityam Bhagavad sevya. Only by every day relishing Bhagavad will bring quickly the devotee from the stage of unearth nivritti, which takes even lifetime. Bhagavatam is most important item, one of the most important item of bhakti, and that is the only process by which we can overcome the anarthas, almost 90% by simply hearing Bhagavatam. So most important. Now Srila Prabhupada writes here, he spoke of Bhagavad Gita, of his network of temples. Prabhupada said, we have Bhagavad Gita promoted, we have so many temples around the world, we have young man, woman, disciple practicing bhakti yoga. He told to the even all these things. Prabhupada mentioned his desire to preach in Russia. Prabhupada, which was great field for Krishna consciousness because the people were open-minded and hadn't been polluted by sense gratification. Now the two criteria, Prabhupada says, those who are not polluted by sense gratification and those who are open-minded, they are the right candidate for Krishna consciousness. In Russia, there was no sense gratification because everybody has to work. Everybody has to work. And they have very limited things available for them to just eat. So there was no sense gratification and they are open-minded. Now we have over 100 centers in Russia. Over 100 centers in Russia. And all over the world, if you find white devotee now, they are Russian. European, American, they are not becoming devotee anymore. Only Russian, anywhere. I was in Germany, the devotee I met from Ukraine and Russia. The white devotees are from there only. Oh, you get only Indian now, everywhere. England, Australia, New Zealand. There was one photo in a Facebook, one old Prabhupada disciple writing, in 70s, in a group photo, only Indian was Srila Prabhupada. And now, in 2020, in a group photo, I am only Western. So this is the whole paradigm shift. Everywhere there are Indian. Prabhupada made all the Western devotees. He has already, you can count on finger Indian devotees, maybe 10, like that, not more than that. Now even Western are only making Indian devotees. This is something like all the Western Maharajs, they are making Indian devotees. Prabhupada says, Indian already devotee, don't waste time here. Make the local people devotee. So Russian, only I'm happy to be in Russia because I never see any Indian there. All the temples, there are Russian people. They're very enthusiastic to listen, to learn, to do service. Very service. Today the book distributors all over the world are Russian. The book distributors, the best team, and any video you see Russian kirtan. Russian has a very graceful style of kirtan and all this. They are very famous all over the world now. And now when they do kirtan, they get permission from the government. And then the area, they set everything there nicely. And then they do kirtan and people gather around and for hours they do that. This is a system. Their kirtan is so gracious. Everybody's, all the media you see, this is. So Russian devotees are all over the world. They are the best book distributors. That I give class, say, with translation it may go 1 hour and 20 minutes. I sit 2 hours to sign books. So they are so interested. After class, there is a book, everybody buy one book and get signed. So 2 hours to sign books. So they are so enthusiastic to buy books. And everybody's house, there's all Prabhupada's books all in their house. I mean, they say, give me books like that. It's not that we have to say, buy a book. So this is a very interesting preaching in Russia. Prabhupada is saying, I want to preach in Russia because they have 2 good qualities. And he wanted to introduce Krishna conscious literature in Russia through a library. He said, you can have a library, we can send books, or reading room somewhere, or in whatever way possible. So Prabhupada wanted actually person and books, both are important. But there is a problem that let the books work there. Person may be in trouble, but books will make miracles. So now, Krishna consciousness philosophy, he said, should be taught to Russians, most intelligent people. But because of the government's restriction, it would have to be done discreetly. Devotees would not be able to sing and dance in the streets. But they could chant quietly together in someone's home. This is what's going on. Now it's on the market. But in Middle East, you go sometime to Kuwait or Doha. Only in the house you can do, not outside. In Muslim countries, all the programs, in Saudi even, the programs are within the homes. So Prabhupada says you can do in homes. And same thing is China, in the homes now. Or they have a yoga centers or a vegetable restaurants. And they preach like that. So Prabhupada then began singing very quietly, leading the boys to Kirtan. Now Prabhupada, actually he gave the real medicine. He started chanting Hare Krishna and they were following. The first meeting. Ivan's taking to Krishna consciousness was likely hungry man's eating a meal. After several hours, however, he and his friend had to go several hours and would return next day. They came again. Shyam Sundar began spending time with Ivan and Narayan. Ivan, a student of Oriental philosophy, was very intelligent and eager to know what was going on in the outside world. They were not knowing. He was fond of Beatles because he knew about them. It means pop science. This is a music because that was the only thing Russians were afraid. And Srila Prabhupada told him that his association with George Harrison and John Lennon, Ivan and Shyam Sundar had long talks about the ambitions and hope of young people outside Russia. And Shyam Sundar explained to him how Krishna consciousness was topmost to all the spiritual path. Shyam Sundar also taught him the basic principle of Bhakti Yoga, such as chanting the prescribed 16 rounds of japa daily, and he gave him his own copy of Bhagavad Gita as it is. Prabhupada showed Ivan how to prepare chapatis and rice. This is interesting. Prabhupada was not, bombarding only philosophy. He was teaching them the culture. This was the difference between the other Indian yogis there. They simply sold their skills. But Prabhupada gave them culture. How to cook chapati, how to cook rice, how to wear dress. He gave them the full culture. This is a difference. So Prabhupada, he said, give up meat eating, and joyfully even accepted chanting and a new way of eating. So he gave up meat eating and everything. Ivan was being trained to that so that the Srila Prabhupada left, Ivan would continue on his own. Ivan would be able to feel himself changing and advancing in his spiritual life. And after practicing for some time, he could be initiated. Ivan said he would tell the friends about Krishna consciousness. With only 2 days left in Moscow, Prabhupada taught Ivan as much as he could. In this young Russian eagerness and intelligence, Prabhupada found the real purpose of his visit to Russia. See, one person you make Krishna conscious, you think my mission is successful. How much, hope Prabhupada has. One person, only one person. And he spent hours and hours every day on that person. So Krishna consciousness is more personal. Personal touch can transform. And this is the beginning. Prabhupada has shown the seed, and now you can see there are thousands of Russian devotees, not hundreds, thousands, lakhs of devotees in the Russia. Everybody know Hare Krishna now. Practically everybody in Russia know Hare Krishna. They say Hare Krishna. They know Hare Krishna. And they are not free in a dhoti, in sikha. They can move. There no restriction now. So Srila Prabhupada has shown the seed there. Prabhupada gave the analogy that when cooking rice, the cook need taste only 1 grain to determine whether the whole pot is cooked. Rice is done. Similarly, by talking with this one Russian youth, Prabhupada could tell that the Russian people were not satisfied in their so-called ideal land of Marxism. Just as Ivan was keenly receptive to Krishna consciousness, millions of other Russians would be also. Prabhupada says, when there are grains, you can take 2 grains and you see what type of grains are there. Take one rice and the whole batch is cooked. So one person, so in Russia there is a big hope for Krishna consciousness. And this system, so the only thing is, if you keep the people tight, not allowing them to mix outside world, they can live with you for some time, then they burst it open and go. This was with the Russia. I am just thinking nowadays, sometime our Bhakti works leader do the same mistake. This is my observation. No, don't go to his class, don't go there, don't go there. They are keeping so much restriction, the result will be, there will be always problems. Too much restriction. Devotional service is voluntary. It should come from your heart. And we should win the heart of the people, not bombard on their minds. This system is bombarding on the minds, not touching to the heart. That is a problem. So, Chanakya Pandit says that one blooming flower can refresh the whole forest, and a fire in the jungle, single tree, can burn the whole forest. So Prabhupada is quoting Chanakya Pandit's 2 things. One flower, whole. Now Prabhupada, this analogy is applying to the Ivan. From the Marxist point of view, the Ivan was the fire that would spread Krishna consciousness to others and thus defeating the communist ideology. So Prabhupada has lit the fire in the forest of the communist Russia as a Ivan. One. And from Prabhupada's point of view, he was aromatic flower. Ivan is an aromatic flower. That would lead its fragrance to many others. Prabhupada's visit to Russia was no obscure interlude, but had become an occasion for planting the seed of Krishna consciousness in a destitute land. So, from Marxism, he is a fire, can burn everything. From Prabhupada's point, fragrant flower, make many more like that and make whole Russia fragrant. So, see the hope of Srila Prabhupada had brought the movement of Lord Chaitanya to yet another country. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself has predicted that the Sankirtan movement would go to every town and village, yet for hundreds of the years, the prediction had remained unfulfilled. Prabhupada, however, in a few years since his first trip to America in 1965, and again planted the Lord Chaitanya's message in one unlikely place after another, and of all the places, this was perhaps the most unlikely. During a brief government supervised visit to Moscow, he had planted the seed of Krishna consciousness within the Soviet Union. He was like the needle, and everyone and everything connected with him was like a thread and would follow. Professor Kodavasya had remarked that Prabhupada's stay in an old-fashioned hotel would not prove very interesting. But Srila Prabhupada, unknown to Professor Kodavasya, was transcendental to Moscow or any other place in the material world. Prabhupada was in America in a room and he said, "Do you think I'm in America?" "No, I'm not in New York, I'm in Vrindavan." Vrindavan is consciousness. So wherever Prabhupada's body is there, but he's always in Vrindavan. He's a man of Vrindavan. He is a man of Golok Vrindavan. He came from there and then he prepared in Vrindavan. Then he took the Vrindavan with him and gave Vrindavan to the whole world. Then he came back to the Vrindavan, and from Vrindavan he went back to the Golok Vrindavan. This is the Prabhupada cycle, Vrindavan cycle of Prabhupada actually. Yeah, this is what he has done actually. He gave Prabhupada to Vrindavan to whole world. So Prabhupada is not transcendental personality. Prabhupada had come to this place and Krishna had sent a sincere soul to him to receive the gift of Krishna consciousness. This had happened not by the devious espionage against the Soviet government, but by the presence of Krishna's pure devotee and his natural desire to satisfy Krishna by preaching. In response to Prabhupada's pure desire, Krishna had sent a one boy, and from that one boy the desire would spread to others. Nothing, not even an iron curtain could stop Krishna consciousness. This is good for everybody of us to realize. No iron curtain can stop Krishna conscious movement. The soul's natural function was to serve Krishna, and Krishna is natural. Krishna's natural will was to satisfy the pure desire of his devotee. So Krishna wanted that Prabhupada has come to Russia, so I sent him Ivan. So this is so as a super soul in the heart of the Ivan and Narayan, they were directed to Prabhupada. On this, Prabhupada used to say, Brahmanda Brahmite koi bhagivana jiva Guru Krishna prasade. Prabhupada said, Parikshit Maharaj was not going to the spiritual master. He was just wanted to go to Krishna. Krishna arranged Sukdev Goswami to come. And Dhruva Maharaj was going to the forest, but Krishna arranged Narad. Similarly, here Krishna arranged Narayan and Ivan to come to Prabhupada. Because Krishna wanted Krishna's mercy that they found the spiritual master. And then the whole process started. In a farewell letter to Professor Kotasvi, Prabhupada tried to encourage further correspondence. You want to see the manuscript of my lectures, therefore I am sending here with an introduction to the lecture, and if you are so desire, I shall be glad to send essays of this subject. What subject? Vedic conception of socialism and communism. Then scientific value of the classless society. This is all interesting for those people. Knowledge by the authoritative tradition. In a letter to the Tamal Krishna, Prabhupada summed up the Moscow visit. I think we are already late. Maybe we finish this Moscow here and send the Prabhupada to France after half page. The Prabhupada writes, this city is well planned. There are big houses and roads, and at daytime the streets are busy with buses, cars and underground trains, which are far better than America and English. The underground streets are very neat and clean. The surface streets are also daily washed, but there is some difficulty in collecting vegetarian foodstuffs. Still, we are cooking our meals by the cooker, which has saved our lives. We talked with one big professor, Mr. Kotasvi, and Shyamsundar talked with many great writers and musicians. 2 boys are working with us, one Indian and one Russian. So there's a good prospect for opening a center, although the atmosphere is not very good. The embassy was not of no help. So our visit to Moscow was not so successful. But for the future, it is hopeful. Tomorrow I go to the Paris for one day, then to San Francisco Rath Yatra, and then I shall come back to London. Now, Prabhupada's finished his tour to Russia. He planted the seed. And in Paris, when Prabhupada goes, devotees are waiting outside. But he was detained 2 hours in immigration. 2 hours. Tomorrow you read, 2 hours he was detained. And how much trouble Srila Prabhupada has taken to establish this movement. And now we have gorgeous temple, wonderful guest houses, everything first class. We have all the facilities. But the Prabhupada himself did a big austerity, and the early devotees, they are the foundation stone, which we can't see, but how much work they have done to build this whole empire all over the world, which is now easily accessible to us. If we utilize this for the purpose of pleasure of Srila Prabhupada, Gaur Nitaya Sri Radha Madan Mohan, Jagannath Baldev, Subhadra Maharani, Sudarshan Chakra, then our life is successful. Hare Krishna. Any question or comment? Yes, Prabhu.
My complaint of that in USSR, United Soviet Socialist Republic, it was like iron scale. According to your age, I think you remember USSR. It was called as iron scale, and there were some of the devotees. At one point of time, government finds a lot of devotees in USSR. And they kept them in prisons and very short prisons. Some of those devotees came to this temple about 15 years back. They came here and they told how some of them they were in the jails also. Meanwhile, what happened? Russia, that USSR splits into 13 pieces one day within one floor. It's not because they were kept in the jails. And after that, it became free. And all the devotees are free to chant and do devotional activities. I remember that.
You remember that? Good. You were there?
When Russia was broken into 13 pieces, USSR, I remember that project. Then I used to connect that point that because of this one that happened, I thought.
What he is saying that.
They were not allowing devotees to practice.
What exactly he is saying?
Devotional service.
Because they didn't allow devotees to practice, that's why it got banned.
Okay.
One day I saw that news, I remember, Prabhuji, that it has split into 13 pieces at that time. And Ukraine also is one of them. Pakistan, Afghanistan, many stans were there.
See, you cannot make all people fool for all times. You can make some people fool for all times. So people are intelligent and they may be for some time agreeing with them and then they disagree. So that's what happened. But now there's a much change in Russia. Russia is very favorable now. I think in the future we can have a minority religion. Krishna consciousness may be the minority religion because Buddhism is already minority religion there in Russia. There are big Buddha temples in Siberia, which is connected with the Himalayas actually. So it should be. And now Indian students in Russia are maybe couple lakhs studying in medical and other universities. In every time I get 50, 20 Indian students, some of them are chanting. It's very. If some devotee want to go and preach to the young student in Russia, they're all Indian students are good candidates for Krishna consciousness there. I visited 2-3 times some university and their student invited them to the temple. So there is a need really for the Indian boys studying there 5 years there to preach to them. They are now, and I was telling it's better they should. Some of them should stay there, marry the Russian girls and then get nationality there. And one time we should have the system there implanted actually, Krishna consciousness. It's happening. Anybody else has a question or comment? We end it here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nidai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Srila Prabhupada in USSR.
Is the same Anant Shanti Prabhu? His name Anant Shanti Prabhu.
Maybe I have to clear because the one was he always everybody said, you know yoga? Anybody speak. And then his samadhi, he was the first Russian devotee. His samadhi we made in Vrindavan.
He's not.
Maybe I think we have to check. I don't know. I have to check with somebody. I have to check with some Russian. Russian, Prabhupada's disciple, his samadhi is in Vrindavan. I was in that samadhi program.